I let my ex touch me at a reunion dance. My husband left me after seeing texts about it. Hello, Reddit. I don't even know why I'm here or why I feel like sharing this mess with strangers on the internet. Maybe I just need to get this out somewhere because it's eating me alive. I've done something so stupid, so reckless, that I've destroyed the one good thing I had in my life. My husband, my rock, my best friend, my everything, left me. And it's all because I couldn't keep my morals in check. I couldn't exercise a shred of self-control when it mattered most. I've never been the type of person to post on Reddit or put my business out there like this. I don't know if I'm looking for advice, sympathy, or just someone to tell me I'm not the worst human being on the planet, even though that's exactly how I feel. All I know is I need to get this out of my system because keeping it bottled up feels like it's going to break me. Let me start from the beginning. My husband, let's call him Jay, was everything I ever wanted in a partner. We've been married for 6 years. Jay isn't just my husband, he is my best friend, the person I could turn to for anything. Our marriage wasn't perfect, of course, no marriage is. We had our disagreements, our rough patches, but we always worked through them. At least I thought we did. I thought we were solid. And now, because of my stupidity, because of one reckless night and a series of even dumber decisions, he's gone. I had an ex, and let's call him Mark. Mark and I dated for what felt like forever. We started going out in high school, and it carried over into college. From the outside, I'm sure it looked like we were this cute young couple, but the reality was hell. I broke things off with Mark during my second year of college, but honestly, it should have ended way sooner. That relationship was toxic. No, scratch that. It was straight up horrible in every possible way you can imagine. I was young, dumb, and hopelessly in love with someone who had absolutely no idea how to treat me. Mark was manipulative in ways I couldn't even recognize at the time. It wasn't like he yelled at me all the time or anything obvious. No, he'd do these little things, like making me feel guilty for wanting to spend time with friends or questioning me about every guy I so much as said hi to. It was subtle at first, and I told myself it was because he cared, you know? But it escalated. By the time we were in college, it was full-blown emotional abuse. He'd criticize me constantly, point out my flaws in this cruel, I'm just being honest way that made me feel like I was the problem. I can't even count how many times I cried myself to sleep because of something he said or did, but I still stayed. I stayed because I thought love meant sticking it out through the rough times. I stayed because I'd convinced myself that if I just tried harder, if I was better, quieter, more agreeable, then he'd stop being so cruel. That somehow, the good parts of him, and there were a few, I'm not going to lie, would outweigh the bad. Spoiler alert, they never did. There were moments, fleeting ones, where I thought about leaving, but then he'd do something to pull me back in. Maybe he'd apologize in this dramatic, heartfelt way that made me think he really meant it. Or he'd remind me of all the history we had together and how we were meant to be. And because I was young and didn't know better, I bought it. Every damn time. By the time I finally found the courage to leave Mark in my second year of college, I was barely holding myself together. I felt like I'd been hollowed out, like every part of me that made me me had been chipped away bit by bit until there was almost nothing left. Mark had taken so much from me, my confidence, my trust in people, even my ability to believe in myself. I was a complete mess, and the road to healing felt like it stretched out endlessly in front of me. For so long, I had lived my life walking on eggshells, constantly questioning every word I said, every action I took, just to avoid setting him off. When I finally got out, I didn't even recognize myself anymore. The girl who was confident and full of life in high school was gone, replaced by someone who was terrified of her own shadow. It felt like the weight of his manipulation had crushed every ounce of strength I once had, and I didn't know how to rebuild. Jay came into my life when I needed him most. He was like this steady, calming presence, everything Mark wasn't. He was kind, patient, and so damn gentle with me. It was the kind of love I didn't even know existed. The kind where I didn't feel like I had to prove my worth or earn affection. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was with someone who made me feel safe, who made me feel like me again. Jay didn't try to fix me, which was what I needed most. Instead, he supported me as I slowly started picking up the broken pieces of myself that Mark had shattered. He reminded me what it felt like to laugh without fear, to speak without hesitation, to just be without constantly second-guessing myself. And for that, I'll always be grateful to him. From the beginning, I was open with Jay about my past. I didn't want to hide anything from him, especially when I knew how much of that experience had shaped who I was. I told him about Mark, about how toxic and abusive the relationship was, and how much it had messed me up. Jay listened, never judging, never interrupting, just letting me get it all out. But I could tell it bothered him, not in an angry or resentful way, but in that quiet, insecure way where you can tell someone's mind is racing with what-ifs. He worried about whether I was truly over Mark, whether there were lingering feelings buried somewhere deep down that I wasn't even aware of. And honestly, I couldn't blame him. I did my best to reassure Jay. I told him over and over again that I didn't have any feelings for Mark, that I was completely done with that chapter of my life. And we worked through it. It wasn't easy. Those kinds of insecurities rarely are. But we got to a point where I thought it was behind us. That's why I can't even be mad at Jay for how he feels about Mark now. I mean, if I were in his shoes, I wouldn't be a fan of Mark either. Imagine being married to someone whose past is haunted by an abusive ex. It's not exactly something you can just shrug off. Jay never liked Mark, and honestly, I don't blame him one bit. That's why, when I first told Jay about the reunion, he wasn't exactly jumping for joy. In fact, he was pretty lukewarm about the whole idea from the start. A few weeks ago, I got the invite for an alumni reunion from my old high school. It had been years since I'd seen most of those people, and honestly, I was kind of excited to go. I mean, who wouldn't be? A chance to catch up, see where everyone's lives had taken them, share some laughs, and relive old memories. It sounded like a good time to me. But Jay? Not so much. I've mentioned before that he's not exactly Mark's biggest fan, so naturally the idea of me being in the same room as my ex, especially that ex, didn't sit well with him. And I get it. I really do. Jay knows the history, the baggage, and everything else that came with Mark. The idea of me running into him again probably brought up every insecurity he'd worked so hard to put to rest. To make matters worse, the reunion just so happened to fall on a day that was kind of a big deal for us, our anniversary. Yeah, I know. It was bad timing, and looking back, maybe I should have skipped the whole thing entirely. But at the time, I didn't see it as a big deal. I figured we could celebrate our anniversary another night. It wasn't like we had some grand plans anyway. I mean, we were just going to have a quiet dinner at home, nothing fancy. So I thought, what's the harm in postponing it by a day or two? On top of that, Jay has always hated reunions, or any kind of social event where he feels like he has to make small talk with strangers. He calls it forced socializing, and he's made it very clear over the years that it's not his thing. So when I brought up the reunion, I didn't even bother suggesting that he come with me. I knew he'd feel out of place, standing awkwardly to the side while I chatted with people he didn't know and probably didn't care to know. I thought I was being considerate, actually. I mean, why drag him along to something he wouldn't enjoy when I could just handle one night on my own? It didn't seem like a big deal. I figured it would just be drinks and harmless reminiscing with people I hadn't seen in forever. I'd go, catch up, maybe stay for a couple of hours, and then head home to Jay. Simple. But hindsight, as they say, is 20/20ths. Now I realize that my decision to go, especially without him, was the first in a series of really, really bad choices. Choices that ultimately led to everything falling apart. At the time, though, I honestly didn't think it would be a big deal. I thought I was just doing something fun for myself, something that wouldn't affect us in any significant way. Jay, on the other hand, wasn't thrilled. He didn't say much when I told him about the reunion, but I could tell he wasn't happy about it. It was in the way he hesitated before answering, the way his jaw tightened ever so slightly, the way he avoided eye contact. He didn't argue with me, though, which I guess made me think he was okay with it. But now I know better. I know that his silence wasn't approval, it was resignation. And I hate myself for not picking up on that sooner. I guess the reason Jay didn't really argue or push back when I told him I was going to the reunion was because of how excited I must have sounded. I mean, I didn't even realize it at the time, but looking back, I probably came across as overly eager. I was rambling on about seeing old friends, wondering what everyone was up to, and talking about how fun it would be to catch up. He must have picked up on that energy, and maybe he just didn't want to rain on my parade. That's Jay, though, always putting my feelings first, even if it meant biting his tongue when he had concerns. And honestly, it wasn't like he completely ignored the situation. He did ask me a couple of times if I was sure about going, and I could tell he wasn't thrilled. But he didn't push it. He didn't outright say, "I don't want you to go," or "This makes me uncomfortable." If he had, maybe I would have taken a step back and thought about it more. But because he didn't, I just assumed he was fine. So, the night of the reunion, I got ready. I dressed up a little more than usual, not anything over the top or flashy, but just enough to make me feel good about myself. I think part of me wanted to make a good impression, you know? It wasn't about Mark or anyone specific. It was more about showing up and feeling like I had my life together. Like, hey, look at me now. I'm doing great. When I arrived at the venue, it was exactly what you'd expect from a high school reunion. Everyone looked older, but somehow still the same, you know? It's like time had passed, but you could still see the teenagers they used to be underneath. There were the jocks who'd grown into dads with beer guts, the cheerleaders who now had kids of their own, and the quiet kids who somehow turned into the most interesting people in the room. It was nostalgic, but also a little surreal. I was busy making the rounds, catching up with old classmates, sharing stories about what everyone had been up to since high school. And then I saw him, Mark, my ex. He was standing on the other side of the room, talking to a group of people. At first, I wasn't even sure it was him. He looked different. Older, obviously, but also more put together than I remembered. Gone were the baggy jeans and oversized hoodies he used to live in. He was dressed sharply, with a tailored shirt and slacks. My stomach did this weird flip when I saw him. Not in a butterflies kind of way, but more like this sudden rush of emotions I didn't expect. It was a little like longing, and more like the ghost of everything I'd been through with him coming back to haunt me all at once. Memories of the fights, the manipulation, the pain, but also the good times, the times I'd convinced myself he was the one. At first I thought about just ignoring him, pretending I hadn't seen him, but then it was too late. He had already spotted me. Our eyes met across the room, and he smiled. It wasn't the kind of smug or cocky grin I might have expected from the Mark I used to know. No, this was different. A simple, genuine smile, like he was just happy to see me. And before I could even decide what to do, he was walking toward me. We started talking, just small talk at first. How long it had been, how strange it was to see everyone all grown up. And then, out of nowhere, he apologized. He actually apologized. Mark apologized for how he treated me back then, for everything. And as soon as he said the words, I felt something inside me shift. It was like this invisible weight I didn't even realize I'd been carrying just lifted off me. I had spent so many years trying to bury the pain, trying to convince myself I didn't need closure, that I didn't need anything from him. But hearing those words, hearing him take responsibility for the way he had hurt me, was something I didn't know I needed until it happened. I told him I appreciated it, that it meant a lot to me, and it really did. It was like a small piece of me that had been broken for so long, finally fit back into place. For the first time in years, I felt like I could truly leave all that behind me. And then we just talked. Crazy enough, it felt easy, like no time had passed. Like all the horrible things that happened between us hadn't. It was weird, almost unsettling, how natural it felt to just stand there and chat with him. We laughed about old memories, stupid things we did in high school, the kind of stories that seem so much funnier when you're years removed from them. We shared updates about our lives, where we were living, what we were doing now. He told me about his job, and I told him about mine. He asked about my family, and I told him about Jay, about how amazing my husband was and how happy I was. Then he complimented me. He said I looked amazing, better than ever, and I won't lie, it felt good to hear it. Not because I was looking for validation, but because it had been a while since someone had noticed me like that. It's not that Jay doesn't love me or think I'm beautiful. I know he does. But after a few years of marriage, things get comfortable. You don't always go out of your way to say those things as often as you used to, so hearing Mark say it, I won't deny it, gave me a little boost. And then the music started. It was one of those slow, nostalgic songs that used to play at every high school dance, the kind of song that immediately brings you back, whether you want it to or not. Mark noticed the song too. He suggested we dance. I hesitated, I really did. My brain was screaming at me to say no, to come up with some excuse, but before I knew it, his hand was reaching out for mine, and I let him take it. He led me to the dance floor, and in my head, I told myself it was fine. It was just one dance. No harm in that, right? It wasn't just one dance. It was more than that. It was the way he was touching me, way too much for something that was supposed to be innocent. His hands were all over my body, touching and rubbing places they shouldn't have, and I didn't stop him. I don't know why I didn't push him away. Maybe part of me didn't want to. Maybe it was the nostalgia, the music, the wine, whatever excuse I could cling to later. I danced with him, I let him touch me, I let it happen. It wasn't until the song ended that reality smacked me in the face. I realized how wrong it was, all of it, the touching, the way I just let it happen. I laughed it off like it wasn't a big deal, like it was just a spur-of-the-moment thing. He suggested I come back to his place with him, and I made some excuse about needing a drink. I walked away from the dance floor. I felt so awful. Later that night, when I was back home and trying to convince myself it wasn't as bad as it felt, Ethan texted me. I should have ignored it. I should have deleted it right then and there, pretended I hadn't seen it, and moved on. But I didn't. Instead, I opened it. What started as harmless small talk quickly turned into something more. We talked about the reunion, about the dance, about the touching and how good it had felt. He told me how great it was to see me, how much he missed the way things used to be. I said the same because honestly, I didn't know what else to say. And just like that, we were diving into old memories. We talked about how we were the it couple back in high school, how everyone thought we'd end up together forever. We joked about the stupid things we used to do, the parties, the nights spent driving around aimlessly, the way we'd planned a whole future together that never happened. And then the conversation took a turn. He started saying things like, if things had been different, maybe we could have had it all. He said he always thought about me, about us, about what we could have been. And instead of shutting it down, instead of reminding him and myself that I had a husband, that I was happy, I let it keep going. I even agreed with him in some twisted, nostalgic way. We talked about the what-ifs, about how maybe in another lifetime we could have worked out, about how good we had been together before it all went wrong. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was shitty to even entertain those thoughts, to let myself get sucked into that old fantasy. But in the moment, it didn't feel like a big deal. They were just texts, right? I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't acting on anything. And besides, Jay wasn't the type to check my phone. He trusted me. He never snooped, never even seemed to think twice about what I was doing when I wasn't with him. I don't know why I even answered his messages. I should have blocked him the second his name popped up on my screen, but I didn't. I don't know what I was thinking, or maybe I do, and I just don't want to admit it to myself. Maybe I was caught up in the nostalgia, feeling like I was back in a time when life felt more exciting and less predictable. Or maybe I just liked the attention. I won't lie, it felt nice in the moment, even though deep down I knew it was wrong. A few days later, everything came crashing down. I had left my phone on the kitchen counter while I went to take a shower. When I came out, Jay was standing there, holding my phone. He asked me why I was talking to Mark. Just hearing him say my ex's name out loud sent a wave of panic through me. I froze. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely think. I tried to say something, anything, but the words just wouldn't come out. Then Jay started reading the messages aloud. His voice was shaking with anger and hurt. I felt like I was going to be sick. Hearing the words I had written, the things I had let Mark say to me, hearing them out loud from Jay's mouth, it made it all so much worse. I tried to explain. I was stumbling over my own words, saying it wasn't what it looked like, that the dance and the texts were just harmless nostalgia, that it didn't mean anything. But Jay wasn't buying it. He told me I had disrespected him. I had disrespected us. And then before I could even fully process what was happening, he packed a bag and walked out the door. It's been a week now. A whole week, and I haven't stopped crying. I've apologized more times than I can count. I've sent texts, left voicemails, everything I can think of to try to reach him, but he won't respond. He's staying at a friend's place, and every time I try to talk to him, he shuts me down completely. He doesn't even want to look at me. I know I messed up. God, do I know it. I took his love and trust for granted in the worst possible way. Dancing with Mark was bad enough, but letting him touch me the way he did? Letting him touch me like that? And then the texts, talking to him after, reminiscing about old times, entertaining the what-ifs. I crossed a line, a big one, and I don't even know how to begin to fix it. I keep replaying that night in my head over and over again, asking myself why I didn't just say no. Why didn't I walk away the second Mark approached me? Why didn't I leave the reunion early and spend the night with Jay instead? He didn't deserve this. He's the best man I've ever known, and I threw it all away for what? A few moments of attention? A stupid dance? I don't know what I'll do if Jay doesn't forgive me. I really don't. I love him so much, and I can't imagine my life without him. I don't even know if I deserve his forgiveness, but I want it more than anything. I just want a chance to make things right, to prove to him that he's the only one who matters. I don't know how I let things get this far, but I'd give anything to go back and undo it all. What do I do, Reddit? How do I fix this? Update. Hello, Reddit. First off, let me just say, wow. My original post reached way more people than I ever expected it would. I wrote it as a way to let out everything that was eating me up inside, thinking it would just get lost in the sea of posts here. But no, a mutual friend actually stumbled upon it, read it, and then showed it to Jay. Yeah, my husband. Jay, of course, immediately sent it to me, asking if I was the one who wrote it. And you know what? For a split second, I thought about denying it. I really did. But then I just thought, what's the use? I mean, he already suspected it was me. Denying it wasn't going to fix anything. So I admitted it. I told him it was anonymous, that it was just something I needed to do to get my thoughts out. I apologized for airing our personal issues online, but I explained that I was drowning and just needed a space to vent. If I could tell you that things improved after that, I would. God, I wish I could. I wish I could give you some kind of happy update, some kind of turnaround, but I can't. Because the truth is, things got worse. Jay wants a divorce. Just typing those words feels unreal. Like even saying it out loud feels like I'm crossing some invisible line I never thought I'd have to face. But here we are. He wants a divorce. I keep asking myself why. Why does he want to throw everything away over this? But then I look in the mirror and I realize I'm the one who threw it away first. I've suggested everything. Couples counseling, individual therapy, sharing locations. Hell, I've even told him I'll stay home 24/7 if that's what it takes. I've laid myself bare in every way I can think of to show him I'm committed to making this work, but none of it is enough. He says I've broken his trust, and he doesn't think it can ever be repaired. He told me he doesn't want to stay in a marriage where resentment will just keep festering over time. And honestly, I get it. I really do. But it doesn't stop it from hurting like hell. Jay told me that what broke him wasn't just the dancing or the texts. It was what it all represented. He said it wasn't about Mark specifically, but about what it said about me. He said the fact that I could so easily let Mark touch me, the way I let my guard down after all these years, showed that maybe I was never fully over Mark. That maybe, deep down, I've always been hung up on him. And that's not true. It's not. I love Jay. He's the man I love, the man I chose, the man I married, but he doesn't believe that anymore. And I don't know how to convince him otherwise when I've already done so much to make him doubt me. I appreciate all the feedback I got on my original post, even the criticism. A lot of it was hard to read, but I understand why people were so harsh. I know I messed up. I know I hurt Jay in a way that might be irreparable, but that doesn't make it any easier to swallow. So yeah, that's where things stand. Thanks for nothing, I guess. Or maybe thanks for holding up a mirror I didn't want to look into. Either way, it doesn't really matter now. Update. Hello, Reddit. I didn't even plan to update on here again. Like, I genuinely didn't. I thought, what's the point? But then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. It's kind of nice to have a place to unload all this shit, you know? Plus, a bunch of you DM me asking for updates, so here I am, one more time. Honestly, I wish I had something better to say, or maybe something super dramatic that would make all of this feel less hopeless. But nope, it's just more of the same mess, and I feel like I'm drowning in it. After Jay told me he wanted a divorce, I really believed he'd change his mind. I kept telling myself that he'd come around, that he'd realize we could work through this. I mean, marriages go through shit, right? People go to couples counseling, they fight, they forgive, and they move on. I thought he'd at least want to try. I held on so tightly to this hope that it's embarrassing to admit now. But no, Jay hasn't changed his mind. And now I know for sure he's not going to, because I got the divorce papers. Yeah, the fucking papers. That shit hit me like a truck. I just stared at them for what felt like hours, trying to wrap my head around the fact that this is real, that this is actually happening. I guess a part of me still can't believe it. I've been crying all week, like not the cute sniffles kind of crying. I mean the full-on ugly, snotty, can't breathe kind of crying. It's pathetic, I know, but I can't help it. I feel like my entire world is falling apart, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. I keep asking myself, how the fuck did I let things get this bad? How did I let one stupid moment, one ridiculous lapse in judgment, destroy everything I had? And for what? A few minutes of attention? A stupid fucking dance? God, if I could go back in time, I'd block Mark the second I saw his name pop up on my phone. Actually, scratch that. I'd block him the moment I saw him at that damn reunion. I've blocked him now, of course, on everything. I don't even know why I didn't do it sooner. Maybe I was just too stupid or too caught up in my own bullshit. But it's too late now. Way too late. The apartment feels so empty without Jay. I don't even know what to do with myself. Every little thing reminds me of him. His side of the bed is cold. His mug is still sitting in the cabinet. His scent lingers in the bathroom. And every time I see or smell or touch something that's his, it feels like another stab in the chest. And on top of all this emotional wreckage, there's the practical shit. I can't even afford the apartment on my own. Like, how the hell am I supposed to do this? I don't want to think about it right now, but I know I'll have to deal with it eventually. At some point, I'm going to have to face the reality of what comes next. Update. Hello, Reddit. So, here I am again. I don't even know why I'm updating, but I feel like I owe you guys a final update or something. At least to tell you how things finally went. If you're just stumbling across this and have no idea what I'm talking about, you can check my previous posts for some context. And for those of you who still DM me asking for updates, yes, people are still doing that. Here you go. First off, Jay came to grab his things. He brought some of his friends to help him move, and let me tell you, it was brutal. I was crying so hard the entire time. It was pathetic, honestly. I was begging him not to go, begging him to reconsider, but he wouldn't even look at me. He just kept moving his stuff like I wasn't even there, like I wasn't a person who was completely breaking apart in front of him. Once he was gone, the apartment felt so empty, like 60 times emptier than it already had. It hurt so bad, and honestly, it still does. And then the divorce got finalized. I can't even put into words how that feels, how final it all is. I keep trying to describe it, but it's like there aren't enough words in the English language to properly explain what it's like to lose the person you thought you'd spend forever with. It's this overwhelming, gut-wrenching kind of hurt that makes you feel like you're drowning. But the worst part, you still have to keep going. I didn't have time to just wallow in misery because I still have bills to pay. I still have to show up to work, smile at customers, and pretend my life isn't completely falling apart. But let me tell you, I was barely holding it together. Every lunch break, I'd hide in the bathroom just so I could cry in private. I lost so much weight from the stress. For a while, I was so sick that I couldn't even get out of bed some mornings. My performance at work tanked hard. I got called into 3 separate meetings with my boss because of how much I was slipping. It's not like I could tell him, "Oh, sorry, I'm just a total emotional wreck because my husband left me." On top of all of that, I had to think about practical things, like how to afford the apartment. Jay had been paying for it, and once he left, I realized there was no way I could manage it on my own. So, I had to get a roommate. And oh my gosh, what a mistake that was. This girl was an absolute mess. She was so dirty, it was honestly unreal. She wouldn't do the dishes, wouldn't take out the trash. Hell, she wouldn't even clean up after her pets. Yes, she had pets. Do you know what's worse than living with someone unhygienic? Living with someone unhygienic who also has pets. The place smelled like animal pee. There were flies everywhere, and the trash was constantly overflowing. Anytime I'd ask her to help out, she'd just snap at me like it was my problem. By the time the lease ended, I couldn't pack my shit fast enough. I didn't even care about trying to hold on to the memories of Jay in that apartment. That place had been completely ruined for me. So now, I'm living at my parents' house. And let me tell you, that's been a whole new kind of hell. My parents are super Christian, and they don't believe in divorce. They actually tried to reach out to Jay to talk to him and convince him to give me another chance. But he wasn't having it. And now, they've made it very clear that they blame me for everything. They're not shy about letting me know how ashamed they are of me for ruining my marriage. Every single day, I feel their disappointment. To make things worse, I have to pay them rent to live here. So between that and my regular bills, it's been nearly impossible to save up enough to move out. My commute to work has doubled, and I'm completely exhausted all the time. But at least it's clean here. At least I'm not surrounded by animal poop and dirty dishes. That's literally the only silver lining I can think of. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I wish I had a happy ending for you, like, look at me, I turned my life around, or Jay and I worked things out. But nope, I'm just here trying to survive one day at a time. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that life doesn't stop, even when you feel like yours has been completely shattered. Thanks for reading, I guess.